Hello and welcome back. So today for the Orbital Dynamics Calculations workbook demonstration, we're going to talk about date and time, specifically the information that you get from the date and time tab. A lot of the information that you see on the date and time tab is also available on the satellites tab or in various other locations within the workbook. But for today, we're going to start with the date and time tab. Alright, so on the date and time tab, you notice there is a bunch of information. Update UTC, reset tab, and reset tab just brings the tab back to its default settings so that there's no confusion about what the user wants to do. The update UTC function, if I were to click the update UTC function, it then goes to a date and time website and downloads UTC time and then links up UTC time with the time of the computer. And in this case, the computer is set to Mountain Time, and it will then automatically calculate the conversion from Mountain Time to UTC time and then bring it in here. So as soon as it's done, we will then be able to determine what the offset is to UTC time. UTC is obviously necessary to determine where all of these satellites and objects are, and everything is referenced to UTC time. But it's not always useful to calculate UTC time forward or back from your current location. So in this case, we have the option of using the computer time to calculate that offset. Now, say I move to a new location. We're going to change the time zone of the computer, adjust date and time, and it's going to come up, and then we're going to be able to adjust the date and time of the computer to the new reference time zone. And in this case, we're going to try the Eastern time zone. It comes up. Let's choose Eastern time. Got it. And hit OK. Now the time is set to the Eastern time zone of the United States. But notice this time did not change. Well, we need to go back and update UTC. And since this takes a few seconds, I'm going to pause and I'll be back as soon as it's done. Okay, and now you notice that the UTC time has changed to a 4-hour offset because we are now on the east coast of the United States. You'll notice here that there's a checkbox that says Auto Update UTC. That means that every time the workbook opens, it will automatically perform that calculation for the computer time to determine where UTC is in reference to the computer, and then to determine the offset. If you don't change your location all that frequently, you don't need to have this checked. Simply uncheck it, and then it won't calculate it when the workbook opens. Another thing you'll notice here is it says automatically calculate UTC offset. What that does, it automatically calculates that time that the computer references back to the computer time to determine the UTC offset. But say you want to manually calculate the UTC offset, let's uncheck that box. There you go. And you'll notice up here that there are some pull down options for various time zones. There is an alternate one, and in this case it's set to Afghanistan time. We're not going to change that. Just know that I change it and it shows 4.5 hours ahead of UTC as that alternate time zone. It just helps you understand a little bit better the date and time of various locations. But in this case, if you look, we had changed it to the east coast of the time, but the time zone for this, when automatically calculate UTC offset is unchecked, is Mountain Time. It automatically then calculates that conversion to 6 hours now. If we wanted to change it anywhere else in the world, we could. Say you don't have internet accessibility, well, I can just change that and then that would calculate it. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to go back to the default, which is automatically calculate UTC offset, and then I'll show you some of the other functions here. If you'll notice, over here there is a Time Now checkbox. That automatically calculates current time for the computer, whatever you've told it as a time zone is. But say we want to reference another time for some of these functions, I will uncheck Time Now, and there is a blue box now that I can manually type in any time that I desire. It also works for the real-time multiplier function. If that is checked and this is something other than 1, it will automatically update the real-time step for the real-time multiplier function. We don't need to do that now. I've already demonstrated that on a couple of the other instructional videos. Just know that you can change that time. A couple other options are, because this is based on the computer time, maybe you want to use UTC time, and I'll demonstrate this in future editions when we're talking about SATRANs. But for time being, we're going to check this Given Alternate Date Time Group button, and it now refers down to this section, and it's always UTC time. You could change it, but it calculates it off of UTC time here. And you just type in that value, whatever that alternate time is, and then it automatically calculates the correct value up here, and the computer uses it. A third option, if we uncheck that and check Use Alternate Format, is to type in a alternate time here with the format of hours, minutes, seconds, and decimals for much greater accuracy. If you type it in, you can type in whatever. Therefore, when you're talking about conjunctions, which is something we'll talk about in a future lesson, and you want to get that much closer to where the actual location of that satellite is, you type it in a decimal here. It will default to whatever date you've selected in the box up here. You can change that or not, but it automatically, if you type in the correct date, it will then calculate it here, or you could type in an alternate date. Let's uncheck that and check that. There are also some other options here for using the TLE. You can change the TLE epoch of the computer to another time if you want to. That's something that you can just play around with. There are a few other options here for alternate epoch times or alternate end times. I won't get into that now. Feel free to play around with this tab. For the time being, that concludes today's lesson. Tune back in for the next episode. Thank you.